A sense of one's own humanity that made life feel large and clarified. It was to this inner clarity that so many became not only attached but addicted, while under its influence no reward of life, neither love nor fame nor wealth, could compete. At the same time, it was this very all-in-allness of world and self that, all too often, made of the communists true believers who could not face up to the police-state corruption at the heart of their faith, even when a 10-year-old could see that a double game was being played. The CPUSA was a dues-paying member of the Comintern, the international communist organization run from Moscow, and as such, it was accountable to the Soviets who intimidated communist parties around the world into adopting policies, both domestic and foreign, that most often served the needs of the Soviet Union rather than those of the Comintern's member countries. As a result, the CPUSA turned itself inside out time and again to accommodate what American communists saw as the one and only socialist country in the world they were required to support at all costs. This unyielding devotion to Soviet Russia allowed American communists to deceive themselves repeatedly throughout the 30s and 40s and much of the 50s, as the Soviet Union rolled over Eastern Europe and became steadily more totalitarian, its actual life ever more hidden and its demands ever more self-serving. In the early 50s, the CPUSA came under serious fire from the wild panic over American security that McCarthyism set in motion. Scores of communists went underground out of fear of prison and perhaps worse. But then in 1956, the party very nearly disintegrated under the weight of its own world-shattering scandal. In February of that year, Nikita Khrushchev addressed the 20th Congress of the Soviet Communist Party and revealed to the world the incalculable horror of Stalin's rule. That address brought with it political devastation for the organized left around the world. Within weeks of its delivery, 30,000 people quit the CPUSA, and within the year, the party was, as it had been in its 1919 beginnings, a small sect on the American political map. I grew up in a left-wing home where the Daily Worker was read. Worker politics, global and local, was discussed at the dinner table, and progressives of every type regularly came and went. It never occurred to me to think of these people as revolutionaries. Never once did I have the impression that anyone around me wanted to see the government overthrown by violence. On the contrary, I saw them as working to see socialism become the norm through a change in the law, a change that would ensure that, with the defeat of capitalism, the American democracy would keep its broken promise of equality for all. In short, however naive that may have been, I saw the progressives always as honest dissenters. When I graduated from City College in the late 50s, I went west to UC Berkeley to pursue a graduate degree in English literature. For the first time, I met Americans en masse. Until then, all I'd ever known were urban Jews and Irish or Italian Catholics, mostly of immigrant origin. Now I discovered that America was a natively Protestant country, which meant that here in Berkeley I met people from Vermont and Nebraska and Idaho, every one of whom had remarkably good manners and thought of communists as the nameless, faceless evil from across the sea. "Your parents were communists?" one after another said to me. No one seemed ever to have laid eyes on one. The shock to my nervous system was profound. It made me both defensive and aggressive, and in time I began finding excuses to announce myself as a red diaper baby wherever and whenever I could, exactly as I would have announced my Jewishness in the presence of open anti-Semitism. Most often the red diaper declaration made people stare at me as if I were a curiosity, but there were times when the listener shrank viscerally. Decades later, I seemed not to have gotten over